Okay, so the new layering stencils, these are stencils that I did with Stampers Anonymous, and basically, I mean, they're just like your typical stencil, but I wanted to do something that was a little bit more my application for stencils. So for me, I think stencils are just a tool to provide imagery on. So first thing, I designed them in a tag shape, easy to store. So 13 stencils on there, they're easy to find, you don't have to dig them through a drawer. Also, I wanted to print the name over the top of it. So by doing that, if I was looking for a stencil, I can just flip through by name and say, okay, I want the stripe one. I can take that out. So these will all connect by a book ring. If you wanted to completely cover a number 8 tag, you could lay that and it will cover a number 8 tag, but I'm just going to use it for layering. So let's go through and do some of that. Start with a tag, take one of my layering stencils. I'm going to work with some paint, I think, to start with. We'll use some different colors of paint and just show you different ways that we can work with this. So I think I'll start here. I'll place the letters down. Now I'm going to shake up the distress paint. I want to get this mixed up. Now distress paint's really fluid. So if you take this fluid paint and you try to go directly on the stencils, it's going to seep underneath it. So I want to make sure that I take this. I'm going to put some onto my craft sheet. And then I'm going to go in with a clean piece of blending foam. Now I like blending foam better than cut and dry foam for this because again, cut and dry foam is thicker. So when you press it down, it's so much paint, it's going to ooze it into the stencil. What blending foam, it's really nice because blending foam is also washable and reusable. So I can pick up all that paint right on my blending foam, and even after I use it, I can come back and wash it in an hour, the next day, whatever, and I'll be able to reuse the foam. So I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to use a tapping motion on this. Most of the time when people are working with the blending tool, they're used to that circular motion like with distress. But with paint on a stencil, I prefer to tap it on there. Now, if you want to build layers of paint, you can do that. You can go right back over the same areas, and you just tap that down, place that on, tap that down, place that on, tap that down, and then we're going to go ahead and just lift that off. Okay, that's our first layer. And I'll go in and clean this off. Now, I like to clean my stencils because if you don't clean your stencils with distress paint, it'll just dry on there, which would be okay. Could be a cool embellished stencil maybe, but I want to dry it. I just want to dry this layer. Now distress paint, when you use it this over the blending tool, it doesn't take that long to dry. It's dry. So, move on to another color. Let's pick a different stencil. I love showing this one because it's really cool. This is the dot fade. So again, I'm going to go in with some paint. I could use the same blending foam if I wanted to get a lighter version, but because I want to go with that brighter version of paint, I'm just going to lay that right over the tag. And I'm just going to dab this on. And what's cool about this is that you can go in and you can create all sorts of cool effects without worrying about how it looks on your stencil. It's what it's going to look like under your stencil that's so cool. So we create a cool fade out of that. And you'll notice everything is perfectly imperfect.
I like that. Perfectly imperfect.
It is. It's perfectly imperfect.
Try to get a customer to master that.
So just going to go ahead and dry that as well. So now I've got layers of paint. What's interesting about this, and you'll see when I'm done with the tag, you don't feel anything on here. There's nothing that's going to be raised. So that's going to allow me to go in and layer. And you can layer with a lot of other distress products. We can go with our ink pads, which I'm going to do, or you can take distress stain if you want to take distress stain over that. And we're just going to layer. So let me grab a few colors. I'll probably end up with all the colors when it's all said and done. But I'm just going to take my ink blending tool. Again, just like normal, work in our circular motion and start going over those areas. And here's what happens. That paint is going to act as a resist. But what's even more cool about this is that unlike working with other paints, like when I was doing the paint resist with like the Adirondack dabbers, you could always feel that. You could feel kind of that chalky raise. But on this one, you won't feel anything. And I'm just going to go in with some different colors. Maybe we'll warm it up with a little wild honey. This is really cool because this color really blends things together. Cool over that. And here's another great thing about working with the paints first. Notice that my dots, they still remain blue even though I put yellow over the top of it. And that's because it's going to act as a resist. Had I have stenciled those with ink and put yellow over it, those would have turned green. So that's really why I chose to do those dots in paint versus ink. So there's no right or wrong, it just depends on what you want your final outcome to be. We'll use a little broken china. Let's kind of green that up a little bit. Maybe we'll take some peacock feathers.
The paint is permanent?
The paint is waterproof, but it's an acrylic as well. So yes, the paint is permanent when it dries, but it's because it's acrylic that it's resisting the distress. Because any acrylic paint's going to act as a resist, but like I said, you're going to feel it. Like if you went in with, you know, multi-medium or something through it, you would feel that. So at this point, we've got this layer. Now, I like the fact that I've got color over that stencil, but if you wanted those stencils to actually be visible, so in other words, if you wanted those letters to not have a blue hue or pink hue, we could wet the cloth, just mist right onto a towel, and we can wipe over that, and I can bring that color straight to the top. It's up to you, so you can either leave it on there or bring some of it off. I'm gonna leave it on down there. So far, so good, we've layered. Then I'm gonna go and take another layering stencil and lay that over the top. Now I wanna spray. So here I went in with some misters, mini misters. I like to work with misters because I love the sprayers. And basically my little recipe is 1 dropper full of re-inker. I don't know what my re-inker bottle is, but distress re-inker, 1 dropper full, the rest water. And I made a lot of different colors. Another cool thing is Ranger's website have these downloadable labels. So you can print this out, use a 1/2 inch punch, and you can label your misters, your blending tools, or you can go in and download the 3/4 inch sheet to label your stains and your paints. So just print them out, has a color name and the color, and stick it on. So it's good. So for this one, let's go in and use some color. We'll go in with a little gathered twigs. As bright as it is, I need a little brown in my life. So I'm just gonna go in and just mist that. Don't need much of it. That's what I like about that. And I'm going to just pick this right up. Okay. Now for this, I just want to dry it because I want to get that mist pattern in there. So before the distress has a chance to kind of wick in there, I'm just going to dry that real quick. And on my stencil, which I know Diane would be super disappointed, I'm just going to wipe it off.
Yes, she would.
I know.
I see a tear.
Yeah, but that's all right. She'll be all right. All right, so now we have another layer on there. Then I'll go in, let's do one more. Let's do something, let's take this, we'll go in a little gathered twigs. I love this stencil, it's a good one. Let's take this layering stencil. Let's go in here. We're gonna take a little blending tool. I think we'll go here. Just gonna go in, just take that, kind of twist and blend that. Get a little clock pattern there. We wanna get another pattern over here. Take that part, and again, it's just gonna create a layer. So now we've got a couple little clock parts in there. So far, so good. We'll clean this off. Just a little baby wipe. So, at this point we've got some layer, but now I wanna go in and add some images. So I'm gonna take some inks. Let's see what I have. I don't think I have an archival ink. Oh, Wendy does. The joys of sharing with Wendy. They're right in the drawer. All right, I'm gonna stamp in archival. So I'm gonna go in and just use a little bit more artful stamps just to show you. So we'll go in with our dragonfly. We'll ink this up, really get him inked, and we can go ahead and stamp. We'll stamp him down.
Sam, really quickly, I will show you.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Here. All right.
Oh, you're gonna
1,
hoist
2,
it up.
3, watch.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Pure Vegas goodness. Only in Vegas, people. Only in Vegas,
What
right?
happens in Vegas?
Stays in Vegas. That is stunning. Absolutely stunning. Isn't that great? I love that. She's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Great seeing you. So there I've just swiped ink onto a stamp and I've stamped that in just to get some random text in place, and I can take another stamp. Same thing, we can swipe that across, and I can just go in and add some other little elements in there. Because that to me is what layering is all about. And then I'm just gonna anchor it. So right now to me, everything's kind of floating around. I love the color, but I wanna go in just with a little bit of black soot and just kind of create some anchor points. So whether I'm going around a corner or an edge, I don't necessarily need to do every little bit of it, but just adding a couple of those little shadows, it's bringing your eye right in the center. So here we're gonna look at the image, here we're gonna see the image in true color. So you can really see all those layers in there. And that's what's cool about layering stencils. We're able to see our text, we're able to see our dots that are in there. You're able to see just a little bit of that honeycomb pattern in the background. And then we've got some clocks, and then of course our stamps. And then you could still go in and do a rub on or do anything else like that. But that to me is the fun of stencils. So when it came to stencils, I wasn't really worried about full-on 12 by 12, 6 by 6 stencils. I just wanted some cool pattern that I can go down and actually layer. That's a layering stencil. Yeah, they're fun. They're easy to use because you don't have to worry about doing the entire pattern, and more importantly, like they're very, very random. So even like the honeycomb, it intentionally has broken out pieces, you know? I don't want a perfect background. Your stripes, they eventually just gonna have all those little pieces in there that can connect, and because I wanted skinny pieces, we had to put some sort of connectors in there so they weren't guitar strings, but and
How do you
they're
govern
really
your
fun.
red browns on top of that?
This one? Cool. Just depends on what you're going to apply over the top of it. So we wanted to go in, let's say we're gonna add a stripe. I'll go this way. Peacock feathers?
Oh, it's
How
gorgeous.
do you
It's
not
nice,
have it in
isn't
your
it?
collection already?
Yeah, it's
don't.
nice.
I don't tend to go for the brightest, but now I'm looking at this and saying I need it.
But you can also go in, obviously, and you can add things to it. That's the thing. So
So you
if
just
I'm blending, yeah, I'm just kind of going one with the stencil, right? Because you could even create like a birch, right? Or you can go across and you can create, you know, kind of a cool plaid effect as well. Or mist over it. Or in this one, if you wanted to, you know, I wouldn't go over with the stains. Again, anything that's going to be too fluid is just going to soak right underneath your stencil. So that's why, like when I said I was spraying, I tend to go for the mini misters. Because even dye sprays, you know, some of these are so intricate that if you get too much ink on there, it's just going to soak underneath it. So they're a lot of fun.
Did you say
They
one
are.
drop in your little mini
One
mixer?
dropper.
Oh,
dropper
a
full.
dropper.
Yeah.
I'm like, a
So,
drop just
yeah.
doesn't sound like enough. I
Yeah.
got you.
But I mean, if that's the color you wanted, that's fine. But I usually like to get the same intensity as what I would get from an ink pad. So usually one eyedropper full of the Distress Reinker and the rest water, you get that same color. So if you were going to go in and, you know, spray through whatever, well, let's take this. Take bubbles. Bubbles cool. It's just fun. We can just go in and I just miss that. And we can just lift that off. I just like that I still get the spray pattern. So even though the dots are the dots, each dot is a spray pattern. Yeah. So that's my whole thing about that sprayer. So they're like little airbrush dots. That's why I like misters.
Where's your
And
original
again, she's
color,
gonna
honey?
cringe. Yep.
I'll tell you. Okay, so first
Super fun, huh?
did
I like
this.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you still that tight.
Yeah, sure. And I love the idea of going over here with like modeling paste or any of that. They're all gonna work through these stencils. Really, really cool. I mean, even when you look at the stars, check those out. They're all jaggedy edges, cool backgrounds.
And did this.